Now it's our first session in the morning. The topic of this section is issues of religions and cultures in East Asia. Let's welcome our moderator from Graduate Institute of Religious Studies, National Chengchi University, Professor Huang Boqi.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this session. I'm the moderator, Fu Qifang from Graduate Institute of Religious Studies, National Chengchi University. And for this panel, we have three scholars from different countries talking about different topics. I will just introduce briefly according to the order of the presentation. The first one is Dr. Tae-Soo Kim from Department of Philosophy, Seoul National University in South Korea. And his presentation is entitled Kan Jun-sun's View of Peace and Science Ethics in Western Thought. And the second scholar of this panel is Professor Kazuo Kumada from the Department of Religion and Culture at the Aichi Gakuin University of Japan. And his presentation is entitled The Founder, or even probably the founders of Technical Unbalance. And the third one is Dr. Andy Ju Chong-yi from the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Now he's the senior lecturer of University of General Education from the Chinese University of Hong Kong. And I think the first two presentations are related to the so-called new religion in Asia. The first one has to do with the Daishin Shinihei of the Korean religious community, and the second one has quite to do with the Tenrikyo in Japan, and they are more or less probably the first religious movement, new religious movement in Korea as well as the Japan. And the third one has something to do with the Confucian reading of Islam in modern China, how the contemporary reading of Islam has been more or less political relevant than the previous in Ming or Qing period. The example is Wang Daixin, and the author talk about this kind of transformation of new thought of Islam in China. And I forget to introduce the title of the third one. His title is Singing Islam as Imperial Consciousness. So itself, the modern variation of the thought of Wang Dai. So without further ado, let's start this panel. First of all, Dr. Kim, you are the first presenter.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for inviting me over here. I'd like to extend my deepest gratitude to Professor Chen and Professor Xie, and also Huang Boqi Laoshi. Okay, today my topic is about the Korean new religion called Daesun Jiliwe. You might not have heard of it, but this is the largest Korean new religion in Korea nowadays. And the fourth biggest new religion among Korean religion. For example, the first one is Christianity, and the second one is Buddhism, the third one is Catholic, and the first one is Daesun Jiliwe. I mean, good number. And then the fifth one is one Buddhism. Okay. let me start from the introduction. And I briefly talk about the general situation of 19th century and 20th century Korea. And then I will go about how the new thought of Kang Jin-san has emerged. In the second chapter, I will talk about his main idea, which is Haewon Sangjeng, which means the resolution of grievances for mutual beneficence. And the third chapter, I will deal with the new religion, Daesun Jil-Yue, and its main idea of peace. And I will conclude. Okay, Korea, during the late 19th century to early 20th century, as you know, we had a lot of continuous wars like the Donghak Revolution and also Japanese intervention between 1910 to 1945. And there was a Chinese-Japanese war from 1894 to 1995. And there was a Russo-Japanese war between 1904 to 1905. And at that time, people were harassed by the overruled of the government corruption and also the invasion. So at that time, there was a person called Kang Jin-san. And he had a kind of sort of resolution of grievances for mutual beneficence, and he proposed a new agenda for eternal peace. So I will talk about the resolving grievances of the three realms of heaven, earth, and human world at first, and then go on to talk about how he will direct the principle of the universe from mutual conflict to mutual beneficence. Okay, about Daesun Jil-Yue, it is a Korean new religion founded by Park Oh-dang, who was born in 1917, but who has succeeded Orthodox religious orthodoxy from founder Cho Jung-san. He was born in 1895. He was the second leader. And it has its origin from Kang Jin-san. He was born in 1871 and has passed away in 1909. And the important thing is that Kang Jin-san in this tradition is revered and worshipped as the omnipotent being exercising supreme authority all of the universe. Okay, and the main idea of this religion is that make others prosperous while not causing chop. And chop means that others' grievance against me. So to foster mutual beneficence throughout the world, the main idea is that we have to cultivate ourselves not to make chop to others. Okay, talking about the history, Kang Jin-san, who is revered as a supreme god in Daesun tradition, descended to the human world after making a great itineration around the world. The great itineration, we call it Daesun, okay, Da Shun. So he rectified the disorder of heaven and earth by carrying out what he called reordering works of the universe, while opening a path to the everlasting earthly paradise by resolving grievances and by establishing harmony in three realms. The three realms means that heaven, earth, and the human world. And DJ, I will call DJ. DJ was established in 1969 to revere the teachings of Cho Jung-san, who inherited Jung-san's Orthodox lineage throughout his 50 years of religious activity. Let me show you some writing which is in the headquarters of the Daesun Jil-Yue, explaining about the origin of the founding of this religion. It says that all things pertain to the mysterious function of Taiji, and several saints came down to the earth to convey the universal truths for enlightening people. For instance, those who came down as kings are Fu Xi, Tanjun, Tangun in Korean, and Wan Wang. And those who came down as teachers are Confucius, Buddha, Lao Tzu, and our holy teacher Kang Jin-san of modern times. And this is his picture, not picture painting. So in Daesun Jil-Yue, they called him as a Kuchon Sangje. Kuchon means the 9th heaven, and Sangje means the Supreme Lord. So the Supreme Lord in the 9th heaven made a great itineration around the world upon the plea and petition of all divine sages and Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. In their scripture, they say that all the divine sages, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas congregated to make a request to the Heavenly Father that without the help of the Heavenly Father, the calamities of the universe cannot be rectified. And by that request, he stopped on this eastern land of Korea and spiritually entered the statue of the golden Maitreya Buddha in the Kumsan Temple and Muang Mountain. It's in the southwest of Korea. Kim Il-sung, Kim Il-sung's, eighth ancestors' tomb is near there. So that mountain is very, good, according to feng shui theorists. And the reason why North Korea was so strong for 50 years is that because of this mountain, they say. And on September 19, 1871, Kang Jung-san was born as a human being to the Kang family in Jeolla province in southwest of the Korean peninsula, and his honorific name was Jung-san. And Jung-san performed his reordering works of the three realms from 1909 to 1909. Then he passed into heaven and returned to his throne as the Supreme Being. As you see, the noblemen, wore this kind of hat at that time. And his theory goes that since the former world has been ruled by the principle of mutual conflict, men are liable to incur grudges of others, and even the spirits of the universe. So grievances filled up all three realms of heaven, earth, and humanity due to man's avarice, so that these caused disastrous calamities all over the world. So his remedy for peace is focusing on avarice. So how to resolve those avarices away, something like that. And by way of doing that, he also did some kind of work, rectifying work of the old degree number into a new one to open up the later world of earthly paradise. And the ultimate aim of this rectifying is to rescue humanities and divinities from the calamities caused by accumulated grievances. And the rationale for this is like this. Resolution of grievances and grateful reciprocation of favors affecting in a reciprocal way into mutual beneficence. So they affect each other. So accordingly, an earthly paradise of the later world will come true. And so according to him, without changing the courses of the universe to be ruled by the principle of mutual beneficence, as well as resolving the kalpas of piled up grievances, human civilization is destined to be annihilated. And he said that I means Kang Jung-san, I will reconstruct heaven and earth and allow divine beings to pass in and out of human minds so that human beings can be renewed and fulfill their heavenly purposes. So in Korean philosophy, we think that we are not born just as a concomitants. I mean, we think that there is a heavenly order, that we have some vocation that we have to fulfill in this life. So after we finish that kind of task, we go to the next step. Okay. So he also said that I will redeem humanity by exercising great authority over the three realms into building the later world of earthly paradise through the principle of mutual beneficence. And the premise of these great works is two things, as I said before. The first one is resolving grievances, and the second one is the grateful reciprocation of favors for mutual beneficence. And I find some kind of humane features on this peace agenda. There is freedom, equality, and human rights, which is quite important. For example, he says that as it's the age of resolution of grievances, at the very first, I will deliver my teaching to the lowly, because at that time Korea was in a severe situation of the discrimination, because man was very high in the position, and my grandmother, I remember, that was not able to dine with us. I have never experienced dining with my grandmother because she's a woman. She had to eat in the kitchen by herself. But that was the old Korean custom until 20th century. So in those times, he said like this, And my father was fascinated by this Dae-Soon Ji in Seoul National University because, he had a lecture saying that Kang Jung-san let the ladies go first when he met on the bridge. That was not possible in Korea because man was king, woman was a servant at that time. Anyhow, so he says that it is the age of resolution of grievances. So good times will come when people discard this discriminating conventionality of the nobleman and treat the lowly considerately. King Sejong. King Sejong is a very famous king in Korea who invented Hangul, which is Korean character. But he had more than 20 concubines. So he had more than 100, children, for example. So the man was king, So the Korean lady is quite gentle, as you know. So for those who hasn't married, I should just recommend you to the Korean lady. Okay, the third one is that as it is the age of resolution of grievances, practice virtuous speech and treat others properly. But nowadays it's changing. They're quite strong nowadays. But compared to Chinese ladies, I think it's quite gentle and modest. Because modesty is quite a very important virtue in Korean tradition. Okay, he also said that facing with this era of resolution of grievances, those who are underprivileged shall not be discriminated again, and even the deserted earth will be utilized. And facing with the times of resolution of grievances, you should return what you have received with good, even though it is evil. Okay, so you never say no when, although you don't like the food that the neighbors give you, but you just give it thank you and then don't eat it. Okay? Okay, in that way, you don't make chop. You do not make chop. I, Sangje, shall let all people be free to do what they want by eliminating the discrimination between men and women. But in the future, I will re-establish the principle of proprieties by creating the harmony of yin and yang. So, he also said that resolving animosity and conflict in humanities through the reordering work between a country nobleman and a petty official of a provincial town. Because at the time there was a kind of competition and a rivalry between the country nobleman, who doesn't have any power, but he has an honor that he's a nobleman. And there's a petty official of a provincial town, he has a power. So they have a kind of conflict, and he made a kind of reordering work using that kind of example. And the underprivileged, such as shaman, shaman was not a man, was not a human being at the time. Shaman in Korean, because it was a Confucian country for 500 years, the shaman and the monk was, deprivileged at the time. But when Japanese invaded Korea, the monk, the status, went higher. And now, the underprivileged, such as shaman, servant, or female, who were afflicted with alienation, discrimination, and exclusion will be released from fetters and gain power. As you see, this is the ladies, and he let the ladies go first. And this is the scene that the shamans, and he let them drink the water and be ordained as a kind of a real, Tauren, which is cultivator, something like that. It's like Buddha, when Mahakashyapa asked the Buddha, saying that, I want to go somewhere else to propagate the Buddhist truth. And he said, are you sure? Yes, I am. And he said, okay, go to the underprivileged people, okay, which is the downcasted people, and drink the water and live with them. That kind of strategy the Kamsen San has made, similar, like Buddha. And this is a principle. And Yet it does not mean the underprivileged gets to wield the power as they want or force others to make a revenge. It means that they have to respect each other. And the basic principle of reordering work of right yin and right yang is zheng yi, which is different from zhou yi. Zhou yi, in case of zhou yi, the first picture is the fu xi yi, which is the heaven is up and the earth is down, right? But in zheng yi, it's opposite. Okay, so the earth is going up, the woman is going up, and man is going down. But it doesn't mean that women wield the power as they want to force the husband to make a revenge. Okay, so anyhow, it means that it's going to be parallel and they respect each other. So this kind of the philosophy of right yin and right yang ushering a new era characterized by eternal peace, where there occurs no more grievances. And this is a specific feature of his resolution of grievances. There is a person called Chun Myung-suk, which is called as Chun Bong-jun. He started the Donghak Revolution, and Jinmuk is the 15th and the 16th century Korean monk, and Choi Soo-un is the person who started the Donghak Revolution. And they were favorably chosen to take part in, Kang Jung-san's reordering works of universe, leading to their resolution of grievances. Because they had the goodwill, Kang Jung-san selected them to, use for the establishment of the good world. So Jeon Bong-jun initiated Donghak peasant revolution with the intention of making the poor rich and the lowly noble. And Jin Wook went up to heaven to acquire every ingenious source for modern civilization for the benefit of human beings. And Choi Soo-won dedicated himself to propagating the great Tao after receiving the heavenly command and teachings of Sangye to save the world. And even though they ended up in failure, their aims were to achieve the supreme good of humankind and actualize a great cause of mutual welfare. So their causes lied in saving people out of suffering, so that Sangye let them take the leading role in his reordering works to create the later world. And he said that the disorder of the three realms was originated from the chaos of the afterlife. There's a movie called Guardian Man, which was inaugurated in 2017 in Korea, which is very popular. And it deals about the life of the afterlife. And he says that first of all, I will rectify the existing degree number of mutual conflict in the afterlife, so that divine beings and human beings who had been blocked came to be harmonious. Accordingly, the major flow of heaven and earth will be put back on the right track overnight. It includes resolving the obsession and bitterness caused by failure to satisfy the human desires for eternal use, like Qin Shi Huang, and power, wealth, and honor. The grievance of Danju, the son of King Yao, is the beginning of all grievances throughout history. So once this is resolved, he says all the knots and chains of grievances stacked up for thousands of years will be resolved. And this is a reordering of the works of the China and Japan. And Chinese used to be ruled by alien power of Manchuria, it is said. So yet following the judgment of Kang Jung-san, the sovereignty of China was restored to the dominant tribe Han. As you see, it is the Qing dynasty, and after that it has split into several powers. But the major tribe is Hanju nowadays. In case of Japan and Russia, okay, let me finish this. At the turn of the century, when Western imperial powers expanding their colonies in the West, Sangye made a reordering work to save the West from the Western imperial powers by bringing about the war between Russia and Japan. So there was a British-Japanese alliance and Russo-French alliance at the time, and it was a prelude to the outbreak of the First World War. And at that time, there was a Baltic fleet which was on the Scandinavia, and they had a long way down to the East Sea of Korea, and they fought each other. It was November, but there was an east wind coming, southeast wind coming down from the Japan Sea, so they won. So they say it's kamikaze. So what he says is that I made that wind blow so that Japan win. Anyhow, so it doesn't mean that he liked Japan, but he always said that Joseon will be going to be like this and this. He did not say our nation. So this is the conclusion. The resolution of grievances for mutual beneficence is like loving my child, and to resolve the chop affecting oneself to become harmonious with all sentient beings without any grievances through mutually understanding one another with a thankful mind, as well as participating in wielding works with pure mind. And grateful reciprocation of favors for mutual beneficence is to recognize the gratitude of heaven and earth, nation, parents, teachers, and occupations, so that one can have a mindset to reciprocate with one's own will by making others prosperous. So I will just go up, yes? And this is the conclusion. The quintessence of resolution grievances is to reflect on one's vanity and futile ambition, and to live within one's means while being mindful not to have any regret. So only when a mutual understanding for each other's view and feeling are achieved, real communicative relations, cooperation can be made. So recovery of innate good nature, as well as self-reflection, could be achieved by not holding on to one's own identity as a potential ground for possible violence. So according to Jung-san, if humans could become renewed through cultivation based upon the truth of the resolution of grievances, then the complete salvation of the people, the stability of the country and its people, and the realization of an earthly paradise and peace would be possible. Thanks for listening.
the Kazuo Kumaka, please.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me all the way from Japan. In the inviting letter, I was invited as a specialist of popular religion in Japan, like Tenrikyo or Om Shinrikyo. I could not know whether people expect me to talk about Om Shinrikyo, terrorism of Om Shinrikyo or Tenrikyo. I personally do not want to talk about Om Shinrikyo so much because it's still a sensitive issue in Japan. So I sent a paper in English on Tenrikyo to this university. But yesterday after dinner time, in the chattering of with Professor Chen, I found that Taiwanese general audience is more interested in terrorism of Om Shinrikyo rather than Tenrikyo. So at first, I intend to make some comments on the terrorism of Om Shinrikyo, which journalism, which mass media do not broadcast. Journalistic report on Om is easy, but academic study of Om Shinrikyo is still under construction. Many social researches are undone and cannot be done forever on account of the execution of the capital punishment of 13 leaders. First, mass media says the most dangerous point of Om Shinrikyo's teaching is Tantra Vajrayana, salvation by killing for better reincarnation of others. But I don't agree with mass media. The most dangerous point of Om teaching is Sei Mutonchaku, saint non-attachment. Asahara says this is the essence of primitive Buddhism, but it has nothing to do with real primitive Buddhism. It's a kind of nihilism. Asahara was born in a family extremely poor, and his family had 8 children. Asahara was abandoned by his parents to the dormitory of the people of disabilities of eyesight, although he has eyesight. For other students, in summer vacations, parents came to invite the students, but in Asahara's case, parents did not come. First, parents for us, it's a mood. In adolescence, people feel temporary, usually temporary, but I think Asahara stabilized it as a method of control of mind and teaching. He excluded parents completely from his mind, shutting out of others. He got peace of mind by shutting out of his parents, and this was attractive for many young believers who are not in good terms with their parents, because it's a good method to avoid conflict. They are living in the world without others, with neither love nor hatred. They are usually believers are very mechanically calm. Calmness is appropriated in East Asian religious culture, but their calmness do not let us feel warmness. They are cold. They behave like robots or androids. It's because of the basic teaching of Om Shinrikyo, Sei Mutonchaku. And at the early period, he called same tonchaku for infinite mind, Shimuryo-shin, using the terminology of primitive Buddhism. I think he himself thought this is the final stage of enlightenment. And second point, Asahara has special talent. He was a genius of yoga master. He was genius as a yoga master. Once I had a teacher, female teacher of massage. She was also practicing yoga. According to her, the name was Matsumoto Chizuo. The original name of Asahara was very famous among yoga people in Japan. Young genius appeared. My massage teacher also went to see the yoga practice of Matsumoto, hearing the reputation. She told to me he was really genius. His Chaoren, Yundon Shinji, he has very high ability of body movement. So by learning yoga from Asahara, often sickness doctors gave up was healed. And more importantly, believers could have mystical experience like seeing lights. And by experiencing mystical experience by yoga, many elites, young elites, become members, thinking this is the real religion. Third, unlike many disworldly oriented new religions, modern new religions, Om's religious goal was final stage of enlightenment. This is vague. Asahara said this disciple is arrived at the stage of final enlightenment, but it is not convincing. What's the difference from yesterday? So Asahara must continuously show grand view, great promise. I think Eric Hoffer's classical analysis of mass movement is applicable at least to some leading elites of Om Shinrikyo. Eric Hoffer said, those who are very capable but have little to do, they are most explosive people. We have only to promise them grandiose behavior to convert them. Grandiose behavior like warrior of the Armageddon. Fourth, Asahara had what Sigmund Freud called projective identification to the outside world. Projective identification means when one gets angry at others, he feels others are angry at you. In reality, Asahara was very angry to the outside world, which made him fail in the national election. But he changed the story, and outside world is dominated by the evil and attacking Om Shinrikyo. And he tried to have final war. Fifth, the danger of natural science. One Nobel Prize of Physics said, if a natural science learns how to make sarin, poisonous gas, it is only natural he should really want to make it. even Nobel Prize is like that. I sometimes feel human beings may disappear from the earth by the overrun of natural sciences. And one psychiatrist who was doing exit counseling of Omu Shinrikyo after 1995 told me it is not so difficult to exit, to make them exit for those who became members by the influence of drugs. Omu Shinrikyo used drugs in the final years to make them feel mystical experience. We have only to convince them that what they saw was only an illusion caused by drugs. But it is difficult to change the believers who became members at the early period of Omu Shinrikyo and accumulated yoga training. They have a lot of mystical experience, and they believe this is a true religion. One member did not come back until the execution of capital punishment. His name is Nimi. He killed nearly 30 people. He's a graduate of the university I'm teaching. My university, in my university, students must have the course of religious study for one year, but the effect of the Buddhism, education of Buddhism was abolished by the mystical experience. And the most important problem is that why the dangerous teaching of nihilism, Sei Mutonchaku, sacred no-attachment, can be accepted by the young elite members in Japan. I think it is because human relations in Japanese society is becoming too shallow and superficial. It is not unnatural to shut out others and leave the world with neither love nor hatred. In 1980s, when Omu Shinrikyo appeared, it was in the age of still Cold War, and in Japanese popular culture, war or salvation was a fashionable topic, like Nausicaa in Windy Valley by Miyazaki or Gundam Yamato. At that time, salvation was a necessary condition to make war. Now, I think we simply wanted to watch war films. Salvation was only a pretext. Of course, all the human beings, every one of us has aggressiveness. But the danger of the people who treat human beings from the place a little bit higher than ordinary people, like practical doctors, teachers, religious leaders, have the risk of justifying their aggressiveness, their mere aggressiveness, by grand cause, like for medical treatment, for educational purpose, for religious salvation. John Han Yushuo 这个先生们。I think the reason why the notion of poor salvation by killing for better reincarnation became so popular among people in Japan is that it reminded people of their everyday experience with their intercourse with people like us, Shenshomen. Professors, haven't you ever scattered poisonous gas in your classroom when the students are very noisy in your heart? We must be careful on such things. Okay. I'm anti-capital punishment for the minorities in Japan. But as for this incident, only Asahara should be under capital punishment. In the teaching of Om, Asahara was the head. Disciples were only hands and legs. Responsibilities are very different. And I personally think we should not let them die so easily. Many social researches, humanities and social sciences must study Om Shinrikyo not to repeat the incident again. Okay, I go back to Tenrikyo a little bit. Probably Taiwanese audience have very little image of Tenrikyo, so I intend to broadcast the music of a devotee of Tenrikyo. Please. Last one. Later. Is it possible to maybe 1 minute wait? 2 minutes. Proceed 1 minute. Exists. Thank you. This is a song named String by Nakajima Miyuki, one of the most talented Japanese female musicians. She's a devotee of Tenrikyo. Her very musician name, Nakajima Miyuki, imitates the foundress name, Nakayama Miki. She's always reading the sacred book of Tenrikyo before concert. So although elder members usually understand foundress conservatively as good wife and wise mother, it is possible to read her as a modern independent woman like Nakajima Miyuki. One critic said Nakajima Miyuki is a reincarnated form of Nakayama Miki by joke. As for Tenrikyo paper, please, you have only to read my English paper. Thank you for listening.
Many thanks to thanks to Professor Commander, although the focus has been shifted from technical to all cynical, but it's okay. And now is the time for the third presenter, Professor Yu Zhisong from Hong Kong, Chinese Hong Kong University.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the Center of Multicultural Study organizing this international conference, and also especially thanks Professor Lee his invitation for me to present my paper and also my concern of Islam in China nowadays, and of course starting from a review of a Muslim intellectual in the Ming Dynasty. My title is Seeing Islam as Imperial Consciousness Soiled. If you know Islamic study, you will know this is a book written by, I borrowed the name called Seeing Islam as the Other Soil, written by Professor Robert Holden, talking about how other religions see Islam in the Asian Middle Ages. But my paper, to some extent, is not just concerned about Wang Dayu. This is a Ming-Qing period Muslim intellectual, but more concerned how the modern scholar in China, they are focusing on Islamic study, how they use the spirit of Wang to explain Islam currently. And so to some extent we have yes. A summary of my paper, I will just briefly explain. Of course, if you see imperial, today we don't have imperial at all, right? So if you read the Chinese, we will be more, my wording is more concise. 国家意思. But I will tell you later why I still use in English the imperial. You will know at the end of the presentation. A summary of my paper, my concern here is not to give a new interpretation or review of the what I translate. In Chinese, we call it 以儒全经, 儒家, I translate into Confucius reading of Islam, Xiao Ai. So my concern is not to give a new interpretation or review of Xiao Ai, but to study based on the current scholarship of Xiao Ai and to see how the heritage or intellectual contribution of Xiao Ai is still being used in the work of modern Islamic scholars in China and the result of this adoption. So the paper will divide into 3 parts. The first part we will introduce the time of Wang, of course, I need to talk about him and his idea of Xiao Ai. And I articulate the concept called 格义, seldom translated into English, but I will, of course, we will know the meaning. This is a phrase used in Chinese Buddhism to describe the features of Xiao Ai. I think not many scholars in China to use this concept to describe the Islam in China, but maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, I try to explain later. And the second part, when I read the book about the current scholarship, the modern scholar, I find that there's a tendency, though I'm not statistically can support this tendency, but I just want to indicate a phenomenon at least, that there's another kind of understanding or another kind of ideology gradually replace the Confucianism and become a new way of reading Islam in China. And this is what I call the moderation force, MT. The moderation force is not my creation. It is one of the books written in China, and in Islamic study in China, he used this moderation force in English. Okay, so I adopt this translation. And I think really this is a new and modern version of Xiao Ai. And so when in this second part, we suggest that the study of MT seems to be diverse in approach. It includes comparative study of religion. It will include about the social culture, And also you will see even the political order, you will see how they use the moderation thought to describe Islam. But interestingly, their conclusions are very similar, and I will say homogeneous. And so I want to indicate that this similar conclusion cause this version, the modern version of CRI to be poor, to be effective, when compared with the traditional one, okay, proposed by Wong. And the final part I want to indicate, I want to use a concept from a clinical term called aphasia, and the meaning is loss of birth, to describe the negative effect on Islam by receiving MT as his interpreter. So this is the outline of the presentation today. First of all, I will tell you about the time of the Wang Dayu, how this is the Mingqing period. And then, what is the CLI? And I will use 2 examples for illustration. And then, what is the moderation thought? And what are the problems when adopting MT as a way of reading Islam in China? And finally, I will tell you my concern, to some extent, the